Good morning, everybody, and today we are joined by Richard Sage. Now, Richard is going to talk to you today about careers guidance and employability skills. If you've got any questions at all for Richard during or at the end of the session, you can pop them in chat. The session is being recorded, so please keep your cameras and microphones off. I'm going to hand over to Richard now. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. As Vanessa said, my name is Richard Sage. I'm delighted to talk to you this morning. I've been a STEM ambassador for 6 or 7 years, and I'm going to talk to you about employability, careers, guidance, CVs, those kind of issues. Just a couple of qualifiers from my end. I'm working from home today. I've asked my mother not to ring me, but if the phone rings, forgive me, it'll obviously disturb the flow a bit. So that's me and my dog Chester, standard poodle, on the beach at one of our favourite spots. So, second page. So, education-wise, I went through school into higher education, O-levels, A-levels, degrees. I was very fortunate to be given lots of opportunities, and my education was typically in engineering, technology, those kind of areas. Married, 2 kids. There's the dog again. Another of his favourite beaches, us at Duxford Aerodrome. I also do a lot of sport, do a lot of fencing. Picture in the middle there is me with the GB team at the European Team Championships earlier this year. I like cycling, flying gliders, do a bit of canoeing, do a bit of windsurfing, do a bit of rock climbing. When I'm not doing that stuff, I'm working. I'm now happily retired. I recommend it, but obviously you're at a very different stage of your careers. And I've had a 35-odd year career spanning engineering, operations, IT, worked in customer management. The kind of common themes have been technology-enabled change, a lot of information technology. I've had operational line management, executive and advisory roles, and I've worked in the energy and utilities sector, the health sector, financial services sector. And I think the kind of headline message there is I've got a breadth and depth of experience in quite a long career. I've seen lots of students join organisations. I've seen people fulfilled in what they do, and I've seen people make maybe some wrong choices and steps along the way. So what I'd like to do is or my passion is helping people fulfill their potential. And over the years, this little chart has developed. I've worked with a number of students, and I've got a track record of helping students into work. And I've taken a number of students through this kind of process. And starting at the top there, it's about finding your uniqueness. What I mean by that, it's about understanding yourself. It's about self-awareness. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then on to career choices. So what are the kind of things that you would enjoy? What are the kind of things that would stimulate you, fulfill you? What are the kind of things that you don't want to do? What are the kind of things that you want to avoid? Having pulled that together into what I like to call a narrative, a story, we'll talk about that in a minute, it's then on to CV preparation. It's about capturing that information on a CV. It's about using your CV as your window, as a showcase, so that you can present yourself to the world, whether that be moving on into further education or whether that be moving on into the world of work. The CV is your opportunity to present yourself. Then it's into job applications. So once you've got this understanding of what kind of thing you're looking for, it's about how do I find the right job? How do I make that application? How do I engage with the organisation that I want to join, whether that be further education or whether that be an employer? And I'll talk about that. Through the job applications, and you'll be successful with some job applications and you'll be unsuccessful with others. That's the way it is. But when you're successful, there'll be an interview. Interviews are an art, and there's some tips and hints and tips that I want to share with you about interview preparation and actually carrying out the interviews. And one of the key things there is star stories, which we'll talk about in a minute or two. So there's 2 little cloud bubbles. I've got a track record of helping students into work. It's true. I've helped a number of people find their career, engage with recruiters or higher education organisations, go through the interview process and land that job that they really want. And I'm confident that if you want some guidance, I can help you too. So self-awareness, and the top left hand of the screen that I'm sharing talks about the areas that I'm covering. So I want to talk now about your uniqueness, your career choices. Over on the left hand side there, I like lists. Not everybody likes lists, and maybe you've got a different way of working, but I like to write things down. I like to have lists that I can look at. And the first list is an asset register. Now, the key thing about this asset register is to think about your life at home, think about your life in school, think about your life during any work experience, and start by listing your knowledge and skills. So what are the kind of things that you're good at? What are the kind of things that you're not so good at? So, for example, I've got good communication skills. I'm good in a team. I like working with numbers. I don't like competitive sports. Those are just some indications of the kind of things that I'd urge you to sit down and list. What is it that you're good at? What is it that you not so good at? I do this over a period of time. This isn't something that you can do as a one-off exercise. It's something that you want to write down. You want to write that list down. You want to rework it, revisit it in a couple of weeks' time, or maybe even a month's time, or maybe even 3 months' time. But polish that list up so that that self-awareness, that understanding is clear to you. The second list I like is what I call a needs register. So what are you looking for in your work, in your career? So, for example, I want to work with others. I like working with people. Or maybe it's the opposite of that. Maybe I don't want to work with others. Maybe I want a job where I'm more independent. Maybe you like being outside. Maybe you like helping people. Maybe status is important to you. Maybe you're looking for a technical or a managerial role. There's something about money. There's something about work-life balance. What is it that you're looking for? So you've got two lists. You've got an asset register and you've got a needs register. Over on the right-hand side there, I like this Shine's Career Anchors test. This is a free test. There's a link here to that free test. And it's along this same kind of line. It talks about motivations. It talks about career anchors. It talks about the kind of things that you're looking for or you prefer. So do I prefer a technical or a more general role? Do I prefer to work independently or under instruction? Do I want an entrepreneurial role or working for someone else? Something worthwhile or less value driven. So for example, I spent a lot of time in the water industry. I found that very fulfilling. I had a real sense of doing something that was worthwhile, that was meaningful. I was contributing to the public health of the general population. Do you want something that's challenging or something that's more routine? Do you want to just go to work and do your job and come home? Or do you want something that is a challenge that maybe you're turning over in your time outside work and get that fulfillment from a problem solved? So to me, when you're thinking about employability, when you're thinking about career choices, it starts with self-awareness. It starts with finding your uniqueness. We've all got different skills and experiences, but we've all got skills that we're proud of. And that phrase, finding your uniqueness, is what is special about me? What's the essence of me? What are my knowledge, skills, and experience? Where have I come from? What am I good at? What do I enjoy? And then what am I looking for? So I like to talk about a narrative. I like to talk about a story, shaping this into a story. So this is me, this is where I've come from, these are my skills and experience, this is what I'm looking for in my career. So that's some thoughts about your uniqueness, and that's some thoughts about your career choices. The next step in this kind of cycle is CV preparation. Now, there's no right and wrong with CVs. There's no best format, and everybody you talk to will have a slightly different view of what the right format for a CV is. And I'm not telling you to do it exactly like this, but in my experience, and I've applied for lots of jobs over 35 odd years, but probably more importantly, I've interviewed lots of people over 35 odd years. And a good CV consists of the following sections, and it's not more than 2 pages long. So it starts with a personal profile. And the personal profile is informed by the narrative that you put together in the previous exercise. So it's who I am. And as I put on the bullet point there, this is where you catch people's attention. An employer or a higher education organisation will have hundreds of CVs that come across their desks. And they don't have time to read everything on the CV. They don't have time to read between the lines. You need to catch their interest with the personal profile. On the right-hand side of the screen, I've put an example of a CV, and I've written it as if I was that 18-year-old again, that 17-year-old again. This is maybe what I would have written. So my personal profile might have said something like, I recently graduated from school with A-levels in English, maths and physics, keen on sport, good with people, I'm hardworking and resilient. I'm passionate about the physical environment, and I'm keen to work in earth science as a related field. Now, yours will be different. And as I say on the screen here, avoid plagiarism. Don't copy this CV. Don't use the same words or phrases that I've used in this CV, because an employer may check that your CV is your own. But what I've tried to do on my personal profile is catch the essence, catch the uniqueness, where I've come from, what my education is, what my skills are, and what I'm looking for. The next section is a bit easier. The next section is education. So list of schools attended, qualifications attained. And then the next section, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Let me just go back to the CV. Let me go back. There we are. The next section is really important, work experience. Now, depending on where you are in your life, you may not have much work experience. You may have only done, one or two part-time jobs, but they're important. And not just listing the jobs that you've done, but listing the skills that you've acquired. So customer service skills. So in my example CV, and this CV will be available to you. I'll pop it in the chat at the end of this call, so you'll have a Word document of this CV. I've done a couple of part-time jobs. I was a farm labourer. I did a weekly paper round. But what I've called out on my CV is what skills I learned. So what I put is, for the farm labourer, driving a variety of farm vehicles, carrying out such activities as egg collecting, harrowing and baling, responsible for personal safety and safe working practices in line with health and safety guidelines. And then critically, what I learned from the job. The work taught me the importance of acting responsibly and being punctual at my place of work. So it doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It doesn't have to be, I changed the world. It doesn't have to be a really high-powered job that you did. My second example is the weekly paper round that I did, collecting and delivering 750 free newspapers to houses and delivering them to houses in South Hatfield. And the important point there is, what did I learn from that? I was responsible for timely and reliable collection and delivery. So the skills that I've acquired is the next section of the CV. So I put interpersonal and team working skills. I enjoy working with people, for example, my sporting and outdoor activities. Then I put working on my own initiative. I enjoy working under supervision, but with scope to work independently, as in my farm work. And thirdly, I'm not keen on routine, but I do enjoy problem solving and I enjoy a challenge, as in my sport. So the key skills is capturing the skills that I've acquired, the experience that I've gained, and how I can take those skills into the workplace and how I could use them with an employer or in higher education. The personal section, the last section here, is again really important, because this is where you come to life. This is what makes you real. So, for example, I'm a keen musician. What I put is I spend quite a lot of time in outdoor group activities, particularly cycling and hill walking. Recently started rock climbing. And it's just a hook, so that when you're at that interview, the interviewer can see something of you, something of the person that you are, and maybe start a conversation that says, oh, I see on your CV that you're a keen musician. Can you tell me what you do? And that's your opportunity to become not just another CV, but a person, a unique person. The next stage is the job application and the interview preparation. So the application, well, I'm going to jump to the bottom here. Preparation is key, and it really is key. You'll see a job advertisement, you'll see a role profile, or you'll see something that says this is what we're looking for in this role in higher education. Study the job advertisement or the role profile carefully. Get out a marker pen. And again, as I say, I like lists, I like pieces of paper. Get out a marker pen and highlight what they're looking for. So go through the advertisement and look at, this is what they're asking for. The second thing is do some research on the company or the academic institution and use what you find out in a cover letter. So for example, if I was applying again to the farm that I worked at, I'd have a look at the size of the farm. I'd have a look at whether it was, what kind of farming it was and what kind of equipment that they used. And if I'm applying to a company, I'd find out, where their offices were and who their competitors were. And in the cover letter, I'd bring my application to life a bit by saying something like, I appreciate your business is this kind of size. I'm really keen to join an organization that gives me an opportunity to grow and develop. You must be facing these kind of challenges, that kind of thing. Bring it to life. And the other thing is not just bring it to life, but when you see the job advertisement or the role profile, and you've got that highlight that says, this is what I'm looking for somebody with these qualifications, I'm looking for somebody with these skills, I'm looking for somebody with a customer service orientation, for example. Make sure you pull that out in your covering letter. I acquired customer service skills in the bar work that I did, or the cafe work that I did, whatever it may be. So that's preparation for the application. If you get called to interview, there's a number of kind of hints and tips. First one, can you find out anything about the people who are interviewing you? Is there anything on their profile on LinkedIn? Can you anticipate the questions and prepare some answers? So typically kind of questions will be, why do you want this job? What is it about this course that you're really keen to do? Can you tell me about a time when, if it's a customer service job, for example, you've got some customer service experience? And this is where these star stories come in. So it's a way of shaping an answer to an interview question, particularly a competency-based interview. So you think about the situation, you think about the task, you think about the action, you think about the result. So what I put here in italics, the situation was such and such, I did so and so, the outcome was this and that. So let me bring that to life. I've told you that I spent some time with Anglian Water. One of the projects that I worked on was the year 2000, technical issue when the calendar was clicking over from 1999 to 2000, and everybody was worried that the technology might fail. So a good example of a star story is if I'm in an interview and the interviewer says to me, now then, Richard, can you tell me an example of where you had a project management responsibility? I would say something like, yes, when I was at Anglian Water, the situation was we were facing the millennium changeover from 1999 to 2000. We were really concerned that our control switches and our computers would fail as we went through that millennium bug. What we did was we recorded a log of all the different computers that we got in the organization, and we went through the software programs that they were running on, and we made sure that we remediated any of these millennium bug problems. And the outcome was that as the clock ticked over at New Year 2000, all the water supplies were maintained and there were no outages. So that's how to prepare, that's how to anticipate questions and answer and prepare your answers. Another good thing is prepare a question or two of your own. So have some examples of your own that you might, or have some questions of your own. So for example, can you tell me what you think the next 5 years holds for your organization? Can you tell me typically what people who've joined at my level would go on to do? That kind of thing. The penultimate bullet point on the right-hand side there, think about how you present yourself. That's important. Be confident in your delivery, engage with people, use your hands when you're talking, think about what you're wearing, practice and be confident. You're there for a reason. You're there because they think that you can do this job. They're interviewing you. This is your opportunity to present yourself in a positive light, sorry. And as I say, preparation is key, and be your best self. So that's pretty much covered what I wanted to talk about. So I've grouped it into 3 areas here. There's self-awareness, asset register, needs register, career anchors, preparing your narrative, telling your story, There's the CV preparation, there's the personal profile, there's the education, there's the work experience, there's the key skills and the personal section. And then in the job applications and interview, preparation is key. Carefully review what they're looking for, research the company, think through likely interview questions, have some questions for them yourself, and most of all, be your best self. And let me just pop into the chat the generic CV as a worked example, and let me now invite any questions.
Thank you, Richard. That was very interesting. Thank you. So one question I've got is, when you're kind of applying for jobs, where's the best place to look for jobs to begin with for students? Obviously looking for a part-time job after school, or maybe they're leaving school and they're looking for their first job. And then the second part of that question would be, do you need to be able to do 100% of what they're asking for in the job specification?
Two really good questions. Difficult answer to the first one because every job will differ. I would look, so the first question was where to look for jobs. Having been through the self-awareness, having thought through what kind of careers am I looking for, what kind of jobs am I looking for, my advice would be find local companies, or if you're prepared to be a bit more ambitious, find national companies who are working in that field. So say, for example, a friend of mine wanted to work with machinery, was very mechanically oriented, was looking for an apprenticeship, and applied to JCB, applied to Caterpillar, applied to John Deere, those kind of engineering, mechanical organisations.
Go on to their actual websites and maybe look at the company's career pages.
Good idea, yeah, definitely. Definitely do that. I'd also, be proactive. I'd talk to people. I'd talk to friends. I'd talk to family, friends. Do you know any organisations locally that do this kind of work? And to give another example, another good friend of mine got a job with a mechanical engineering apprenticeship job with a local farm machinery company. So he just proactively looked around what was in his area for companies that did that kind of work, surfed the internet, went on their websites, that kind of thing. The second question, do you need to be able to do 100% of what they're looking for? Absolutely not. If you can tick every box, well, you're obviously going to be in a strong position. But in my experience, companies are looking to employ people with potential. Companies are looking to employ people with capability that can grow into the role that they're looking for. So as long as you can do most of what they're looking for, and obviously there's no point applying for a job where you can't do any of it, but as long as you can do most of what they're looking for, I'd encourage you to be proactive, put yourself out there, and be clear about the things that you maybe can't do, and be prepared at interview to talk about those and say, well, I don't have professional project management qualifications, but I'm hoping that there'll either be the opportunity in this job to do some training, or alternatively, I'm going to do something in my own time to plug those gaps.
That's fab. Okay, thank you ever so much. I'm going to stop the recording.